Hey ladies, welcome back to the show. I'm Trisha, and on this episode, I want to talk about why you are not living up to your full potential when it comes to your health goals. So hear me out. I want to talk about this idea of living up to our full potential when it comes to our health, wellness, and self-care goals, and why sometimes we get stuck along the way despite many of our best intentions for growth and to do better and to do something different than what we're already doing. At the end, I want to talk about some strategies that may work for you. This podcast is meant for you. So there's strategies here that some may work for you, some may not, but take what works for you and add it to your toolbox. When it comes to our health, it's hard. We need all the strategies and the tools that we can get. And so if one of these sound like it works for you, then then for sure employ that because it will help you. Before we start the episode, if you find this episode to be valuable, I would be so grateful for you to tell your friends about the show so that we can continue to grow the mission of this podcast. And I would be really grateful. So thank you. Okay, so when we were young and growing up, we lived in this perpetual state of being challenged in new experiences, in connecting to our peers, learning new hobbies, sports, interests, whatever it is that was something that you did. We were always learning and mastering new skills. And I think of my son and all the newness and all of the uniqueness and the challenges that he's constantly being exposed to, and how much he continues to grow so quickly, physically, mentally, emotionally. So it got me to start thinking about my own life, and so I wanted to kind of present this to all of you because this is your podcast, right? So I want to kind of really talk about this idea. So as we grow into adulthood, all of that same growth and the challenges and all the spontaneity that we had when we were younger seems to go by the wayside. And it's totally understandable because we get bogged down by responsibilities, by burdens, by life in general. And no matter how much we may seek growth, it seems to take a back seat and really become something that's not like a priority because life can seem really hard at times. And, it's hard enough to get through the daily routine, let alone adding something to it. You may even feel really uncomfortable in your life. You may not even be happy with it. And when it comes to where you are with your health, but at least this kind of discomfort. And you may not be ready to challenge that. You might be like, all right, this is where I'm at. I need to be here for right now. I don't 100% love it, but I can't, and I know that I can't really make any changes, and that's okay. But I want to really dig deep in here when you feel like maybe there is something within you that feels like, okay, I'm really ready to make this change. And kind of being in this place where you kind of want it, but then you're a little bit like you find yourself in the same position. I'm talking to you if you're somebody who is looking at your life and you notice that you're having these periods of stagnation. Maybe it's been 5 years and you've been complaining about the same health-related problem, but with no resolution. You maybe took a step, a couple times during that 5 years, but not enough to really create and generate change. And I want to talk about this because, what age is it that we decide that we're going to become too afraid to expand and grow, and when our life starts to feel like more stagnant and we're not open as much to having these changes that we had so easily when we were younger. So it's been 5 years and you have maybe found yourself in a position where you're like, what am I doing? And I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but if you have, you're who I want to talk to. This episode is for you. Are you someone, are you sitting there thinking that you really want to be taking better care of yourself, but you're not really doing it? Are you still dreaming that you want something different in your life when it comes to your health, wellness, and self-care goals, but you're not really taking any steps to do anything different? So I want to talk about some of the common reasons why this happens for people. And really, when we're reading this list, kind of see if there's anything that identifies with you, because as we move forward to trying to figure out some solutions that may work for you or that you want to try, it'll be important to kind of know what is that emotion that's driving or not driving the change that you so desire. So some of the most common reasons why people and women like you feel like, okay, I really want something different, but I can't seem to make these changes in my life. There's a variety, but one of the first ones I'm going to talk about is that you may be too scared to move forward or do something different than you're doing now. You may live in this perpetual state of like, okay, I'm really scared. I don't really know what to do. And I can manage kind of what I'm doing, and I can live with that. You could be someone who is very fearful of being uncomfortable. Even though you may be uncomfortable, it might be a kind of discomfort that is familiar to you. And so on the upside of that is that you're comfortable with that discomfort. You know how to manage it. You know how to expect it. And so it keeps you from moving forward. You could be someone who has anxiety or just fear of the unknown. And maybe there's a part of you that just feels like, I'm not really sure what I can do to move forward. You could be somebody who is navigating survival mode, and so you're just trying to get through the day-to-day activities to survive life, and you're not really contemplating where you've been in the last 5 years because you're just still going and going. It could be fear of failure because perhaps you've failed at all the things that you've done for health changes previously, and you don't want to put yourself through that again. Or the fear of success, because with that success also comes a bit of an unknown that might be unfamiliar and that may cause you some discomfort because you've never seen yourself in that place that you could perhaps be successful. And the last one could be just complacency in your life. You're just kind of like hanging out and, and you're okay with where you're at. Or maybe you're not okay, but you're not in a position where you have the desire to really make any meaningful change. So first, I want to kind of let you know that all of these reasons that, that maybe you're not doing something, these are the most common reasons. All of this is because our brain wants to keep us safe. So anything that's going to provide any of these feelings that may lead to discomfort, if you're scared or anxious, or you're in survival mode, or you're, having any of those thoughts, it's really hard. Like, your body wants to keep you safe. And it's hard when you feel those things to feel safe. So first, I just want to kind of let you know that that's normal, but that's what you're fighting against. And so if you feel any of these things, what do you do about it? So you've identified that, yeah, I do want something different. And maybe you've identified a little bit about what is holding you back and prohibiting you from moving forward to getting what you really want. And so let's talk about that. What are some of the things that you can do about it? These are tools for you. And again, some of these things may not work for you. It's just more tools to have in your toolbox to help you move forward. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with being complacent or being in a place where you're okay where you are right now. You might be somebody who there's too much going on, or you don't really have the desire or the wish to do something different, and that's okay too. But if you're somebody who really wants to do something different and you don't want to wait until you turn 45 or 50 or retirement to get what you want, then where do you start? Well, first, let's identify what behavior you want to have that you don't have now. So let's think about over the past 5 years. What is it that you're constantly saying to yourself that you wish you could achieve? I suspect for most of you, weight loss is probably something that comes to your mind. But it could be anything. It could be, I want to take better control of my diabetes. I want to be more active. It could be anything. And so that's what I want you first to identify. What is the one behavior that you've wanted to do over the last couple of years that has escaped you from being able to do? Next, I want you to identify what kind of mindset do you have about this behavior and how can you challenge it? So I've talked about mindset on this podcast multiple times. I think I have multiple episodes. The two off the top of my head that I can think of that I'll put in the show notes is episode 157 and episode 160. And I think in one of those episodes, I talked about this idea of a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And so what that basically is, in a lot of business books, so especially if you're somebody that's in business, they use this. So I'm gonna kind of talk about this in health related terms. So a growth mindset is basically that you believe that you can learn new skills, and that if you make the effort, then you're going to make closer results to what you want to achieve. And ideally, in order for a real change to occur, that's the kind of mindset that you want to have. You believe that you can do it, you put the effort into it, and you achieve it. The other mindset that makes it harder for change to really occur is a fixed mindset. And so a fixed mindset is this idea that you're kind of stuck where you are, but that you don't believe that any amount of effort that you do will get you to the goal. And maybe that also comes with feeling like your behaviors are unchangeable. So it could be like the fixed mindset. An example could be like, why am I even trying? I never, and nothing ever happens anyway. Maybe you are somebody who feels like, well, it's just not worth it. I'm just going to give it up. I can't do that. And so if you have a mindset that is a growth mindset where you feel like you believe that you can learn new skills, and if you and you believe that if you make the effort, then you will achieve it, then that's going to be a step in a direction of you getting closer to the goal that you want to do, versus having this fixed mindset and feeling like nothing is going to work. No matter how much effort I put into it, nothing is going to change. And so why I want you to identify kind of where you are with the behavior that you've identified is that if you're stuck in this fixed mindset, it's going to be hard for you to move past that. If you don't believe that you can do it, which you might, I think that if you failed at something, for a couple of years, or you haven't been able to achieve it, it may feel really hard to have a belief that you can move forward and do it. But the important thing is that this idea that you are going to make the effort. So maybe for you, you may not believe it, but if you kind of just believe that if you make an effort, so maybe that just means that you're taking a step in a direction of making effort and then just kind of practicing that over time. So even if you don't believe it in the beginning, the more you do it, you get yourself into a position that you believe that you can do it. And all of this in terms of when it comes to mindset and behavior, all of it is, it's going to feel uncomfortable at the beginning. So if you feel like you're in this place where your mindset is like, oh my gosh, I can't do it, really start to figure out, like, do you believe that, or are you just scared because you're in a place where it's really scary and uncomfortable, and maybe you have anxiety because you're having some kind of change, and just know that it's normal. Because once you identify it and normalize it, then you can move past it. But if you're in this place that you're so scared and that you've kind of, like, I think sometimes with fear, it drives this procrastination and this inability to move forward. And so once you've identified what you want to do, just kind of figure out where you shake out in terms of, do you believe you can do it or do you not? And if you're someone that, if you don't really believe in it, then maybe just believing that you can make the effort is enough at the beginning to get you to do the behavior. And then the more you practice the behavior, the more effort you put into the behavior, the greater the belief that you'll have that you can do it. And knowing that all of this is normal. Any change that you are trying to do, especially if it's something that you so badly want and you haven't been able to do, it's going to be uncomfortable. It may even feel really hard at the beginning, but again, normalizing that's part of the process. The third thing to help with this idea that you want something different and to get comfortable with the idea of doing something that's going to take you out of your comfort zone, what may work for you is to do something different this week in your routine. And that could be really anything. It could be something big. It could be something small. I personally would probably do something small, because the idea here is to get yourself used to doing something different. Because if you're somebody who has not really done anything different and you've just been kind of living your life kind of the same way, something really small could really have a benefit in the long run. And it's going to, again, help you get comfortable with doing something new so that you're not just uncomfortable with the behavior. Perhaps the more you do something else that's out of your comfort zone, it will help to get you into that mindset of doing something that's different for you so that you can progress forward. And so this could be anything. This could be something like switching up your routine by going on a different route if you take a walk. This could be reading a different kind of book that you normally read. So, maybe you read fiction and then maybe now you do nonfiction. This could be a new recipe. This could be moving forward with perhaps a course that you've wanted to take, or listening to a new podcast. You can always recommend this podcast for sure. But just kind of getting things in your arsenal, just switch up your routine. This could even be like something as simple as like eating a new fruit or veggie this week, or, having a new recipe in your repertoire. Anything to challenge yourself to do something different so that you get comfortable with something new. Remember, your brain's going to want to keep you in this place of you being safe. So the more you practice these manageable steps of being uncomfortable, the more you're going to be able to cope with the bigger discomfort of change that will happen as you're trying to move forward with the health goals that you really want to have. And then the last thing I would say is to really take some form of action. I'm not sure if you're like me, but when I'm really scared about something, I tend to procrastinate. And what I realize is even when I know I'm procrastinating, it's like I can't get out of it. The only thing that would get me out of it would be to take some form of action. And so what I would say to you is if you're a fellow procrastinator like me, or if you're feeling scared in general, or whatever emotion that you're feeling, just take some form of action. And I want you to take like a really small form of action. It doesn't have to be anything really big. If anything, something really, it's really going to depend on who you are. Again, this podcast is meant for all of you. So it's not a one size fits all. You're going to have to figure out what individually works for you. And so if you're somebody who can make these really big drastic changes, then perhaps you take big action. But if you're somebody who takes or is scared and you need some baby steps, which I believe probably most people are here, then just do any step. Again, anything, even if it's so teeny tiny, because any step forward is going to lead you towards the behavior that you really want. And it's going to be progress. I feel like there's songs and quotes about the only way out is through. And it really, that's exactly what we do here. So if you're scared of something, or if you are just kind of in this place that you don't know what to do, or you're procrastinating, just take some form of action. No matter how small it is, just do something today. Because you have to take some step forward, no matter how small, to get to the bigger change that you want. You're not going to be in a place that you say, I'm really scared to make a change, and then the next day just go 360 into making the change that you desire. It's going to be these baby steps that once you repeat over and over again is going to help you get more comfortable. It's going to help you be more consistent, and it's going to help you feel more practiced, and it's going to help you feel more confident. And so once you start, you do whatever it is you want, you do it over and over again, because it's the repetition of that behavior that's going to make you feel more comfortable and help you get consistent. If you never take action, then you're never going to have the repetition. You're never going to be able to repeat the behavior, and you're never going to get more comfortable or more consistent with what you're trying to achieve. So you have to be able to take some kind of action to move forward. If you don't take action, then you could be looking at this in another 5 years in the same position. So I encourage you to do any kind of action, no matter how small, to get to the bigger change that ultimately will happen if you can just maintain that consistency. And I would also say that you're going to get better at whatever it is you're trying to do with having more repetition, with being more practice, and being consistent. And so again, take some kind of action most days of the week. For today, just start. And then the next day, kind of like do what you did today. And that will require you to probably track something daily or weekly to kind of help you see the consistency. Once you believe that you can be consistent and repetitive with your action, that will also help make you feel more comfortable with what it is. And it will also help give you the belief that you can do something that you really want to achieve that you may not have been able to do previously. I would say to do one thing at a time. So if you're taking action, just start with one thing. I know we like to, as humans, kind of be like, all right, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to start exercising 5 days a week, and I'm going to eat everything. But I wouldn't do that. I think that it's really hard to build on multiple habits when you don't really have the foundation. And so taking some form of action, even something really small, whatever that is for you. It could be, I'm going to bring my meal to work today so that I don't eat out. Whatever it is, how small it is. It's just that you can get that foundation under your feet. And then once you get that and you practice it and it becomes more comfortable to you, then you build the next step. And you keep building that foundation until you get to a point that you feel like you have a pretty steady base and you feel more comfortable, and that you have the belief that you can continue to do this to progress to where you want to be. And I want to just remind you too that like all of this in terms of achieving the goals that you're trying to do, you can transform your life at any age. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long it takes. For some people, you may get into this idea of like, okay, I'm going to do one change, and that could stick after a few days, after a few weeks. And then for other people, you may need to practice some behavior that may be seemingly easy to you, but you may need to practice it for many months or even years before you get to a place that you can move forward. And that's okay, because again, this is whatever works for you and for your life. You may just be trying to do the bare minimum, and that's okay. So you can transform your life at any time in your life, no matter your age, no matter your health. And it will take as long as it needs to take for you, because you're different. Everybody does things at their own speed, according to their life, according to their comfort level. There's so many other variables. And remembering that that's okay. You can do it in a couple of days, a couple of weeks, or a couple of months, or even years, because any step forward is in the right direction of what you're trying to achieve over the long term. We're not trying to do something short term. We're trying to create the foundation that we can stick with over the long term, and that we can keep practicing it over and over again to get to the place that you want to be. There's a quote. I love my quotes. So there's a quote that I want to leave you with, and I want you to think about. It's by Abraham Maslow. So Maslow, as you remember, did the whole hierarchy of needs. And he says, you either step forward into growth or step back into safety. You either step forward into growth or step back into safety. So I want you to think about today what it is that you choose. Are you ready to take a step forward towards growth, or do you feel like you need a little bit more time and you are going to rely on safety? It's your choice. It's never too late to start something new and to be able to achieve those goals that you've been putting off for the last 5 years. So what do you choose today? Do you choose growth, or do you choose safety? I thank you all for listening today to our podcast. If you found value in this podcast, or you felt like it was something that really benefited you, please subscribe, share, rate, review, and know that the reason why I ask you to do those things is that as this podcast grows, we can record more episodes and do more topic ideas to help serve you on your journey to whole health. You can also catch up on old episodes by subscribing or listening now. If there's a topic that you wish to hear that you haven't heard, hit me up at info@trishard.com. That is my website. You can send me an email. Again, I thank you so much for listening, and I will see you guys back here next week.